Tonight, a police shooting. Top cops defend a constable who opened fire as a young man charged towards him, waving knives. Passengers delayed and stranded on tarmacs over a nationwide Qantas computer outage. A Perth teenager in the fight of her life left partially paralysed in a freak motocross accident. The Premier budges with a public sector pay rise, but workers say it's still not enough. And golden moments at the Commonwealth Games as one of our star swimmers threatens to quit.
This is 9 News Perth with Tracy Vo.
Good evening. A WA constable has defended opening fire at a young man as he charged towards him, waving 2 knives at a wheatbelt home. The police minister denies there are resourcing issues, even though the officer was forced to respond to the emergency alone.
A major investigation in a sleepy wheatbelt town. Police scouring a Pingelly cul-de-sac, trying to work out how one of their own was forced to shoot.
Whatever happened, it should not have happened like that.
Multiple 000 calls came in about 4 o'clock this morning, raising an alarm on a man acting aggressively inside this Elliott Street home. A single constable arrived. The 20-year-old man
ran from the address armed with knives towards police, who spoke to him to stop, deployed taser, which was ineffective, and then fired a single shot,
hitting the former FIFO worker in the torso. The officer and family providing life-saving first aid before he was flown to Royal Perth Hospital, where tonight, remarkably, he's in a stable condition.
I know that he's only been living in Pingelly for about a month. And he's a very, very quiet boy.
The police have a very good relationship with his mother, that they're well known.
The frantic moments were captured on body-worn camera. It allegedly shows the armed man making it to within a metre of the officer before he fired the shot. As the officer is investigated in an internal inquiry overseen by the Crime and Corruption Commission, questions are tonight turning to police resourcing.
We're talking about Pingelly at 4 a.m. in the morning, so there was no one actively on duty in town at that time.
Police insisting the response time was still adequate, but on top of that, the constable was alone because his partner was sick.
Well, it's by necessity. If there's 2 officers and one's sick, you're on your own.
Kelly Hayward, 9 News.
Innocent lives were put at risk when a driver allegedly opened fire at another car in a Morley shopping centre car park just before 7 o'clock this morning. Police say the shooting was sparked by a love triangle, with a man now in custody.
As a result of the meeting of conflicting parties, a shot was fired from a firearm at a car. The police, again, response was immediate.
Police were also called to the same Coventry Village shopping centre late yesterday after a turf war between vape shops culminated in a stabbing. A man in his 40s suffered a leg wound. Officers tonight hunting his attacker. There's a fresh wave of travel chaos tonight as Qantas deals with a nationwide computer outage. Mia Edgerton-Warburton, passengers aren't happy.
And with good reason, Tracy. Hundreds were left waiting on tarmacs this afternoon. An IT problem grounding planes for around 90 minutes. Now, Qantas says this issue began around 2:30 WA time. It initially impacted about a dozen flights, but that had a domino effect across the network. Now, cabin crews told waiting passengers they couldn't take off until the computers were once again up and running, many voicing their frustrations on social media. Now, we know here in Perth at least 3 flights this evening have been delayed by more than an hour, but Qantas insists the problem was only minor and has now been fixed. Tracy.
All right, Mia, thank you. A Perth teenager is in the fight of her life, left partially paralysed after a freak motocross accident. Bella Howe was filming her boyfriend's race when his bike flew towards her.
A small step in a mammoth recovery. Bella Howe smiling for the first time since the accident that could have killed her.
We're so thankful.
The 19-year-old in hospital with severe brain injury after a freak crash at a Brookton motocross event 2 weeks ago.
We were sort of told that she may never be able to wake up from the coma that she was in.
She was filming her partner Ronan in his last race of the day when it took a horrific turn. With 2 laps to go, he came off a jump, his bike flying into the crowd of spectators.
There were kids, there were people lined along that whole jump line in chairs. For some reason, the bike just went towards her and it hit her at full speed.
Emma Howe rushed to the rider's aid, clueless to her daughter's fate.
Just dropped to the ground with him and I said, "Are you okay, mate?" And he just said, "Bella." And I looked up and Bella was just face down. And Ronan was just in complete shock.
Bella spent more than a week in intensive care. Still paralysed down her left side, her fighting spirit is shining through.
Can you squeeze my hand?
Good girl.
You did it. Good girl.
Every single thing that she has done along the way has blown my mind.
The community digging deep to help the teenager, raising more than $20,000. Doctors say her recovery could take years. Her family by her side every step of the way. Sarah Smith, 9 News.
Homicide detectives have spent a second day investigating the death of a man aged in his 30s inside his Alkimos home. The victim was found in the garage of the Minoan Way property. A woman in her 20s remains in police custody. More than 150,000 WA public sector workers will be given a 3% annual pay rise to keep up with rising inflation. The McGowan government upping its wage offer after months of unrest, but workers say it's still not enough.
The pressure has been mounting and now the government's budged.
We're going to change our wages policy and make it more generous.
Generosity in the form of a 3% pay rise over 2 years, up from the original 2.75% offer, and a one-off $2,500 payment to help meet the rising cost of living.
Anyone up to about $120,000 is getting more than 5% pay increase.
Unions claim it's still not enough.
One-off payments are just that, one-off payments. They don't deliver an ongoing percentage increase to workers' pay and conditions.
Will this wage offer stop our nurses and midwives from leaving? Probably not.
The revised pay deal follows months of escalating industrial action, hundreds of health workers walking off the job earlier this month in their fight for fairer wages, with more strikes expected in the coming weeks. But the Premier insists he hasn't caved.
I've talked to lots of public sector workers. I know it's tough out there. We just want to make sure that people are properly rewarded in a difficult environment.
This isn't genuine bargaining. We're not in the room bargaining these pay increases. Government is just dropping this on us.
The opposition unmoved by the change, labelling the increase moderately generous.
Would have then liked to see him reassess the policy in the longer term, and instead of giving a one-off hit in terms of cash, a genuine look at what the government can afford in terms of wages policy.
Brittany Hoskins, 9 News.
The University of Western Australia has apologised for a data breach that put students' grades, addresses and phone numbers in unknown hands. UWA has asked police to investigate an unauthorised login to its student information system. It says there's no evidence the breached data has been used and it was limited to personal details with no tax file numbers, bank or medical records included. Australian swimmer Kyle Chalmers is threatening to walk away from the sport, lashing out over reports about teammate and former girlfriend Emma McKeon. The drama unfolding as Australia records more success on day 2 of the Commonwealth Games, our medal tally standing at 32.
There was the pain.
The danger is getting a cramp at this point.
And the psychological hurdles.
This is where your mental game comes into it because she's alone with her thoughts here.
But nothing was going to get in Jess Stenson's way this time.
This South Australian champion, this Australian champion, this Commonwealth champion.
A gut-busting breakaway paying off in gold.
It wasn't until I saw the clock that I thought, this is actually happening. Like, do I get excited? Like, I've got to, watch where I'm going and just get to the finish line. So it's a really amazing feeling.
A feeling shared by husband Dylan and 2-year-old son Billy, with her every step.
We're just proud, it's... She's chipped away and done all the right things and committed and worked so hard.
Jess says she couldn't have done it without teammates Sinead Diver and Eloise Wellings, who shared a vital caffeine gel along the way when hers went missing. credit too to family home in Adelaide.
Getting out the door some days is tough, so this is for them.
Half a world away, they savoured every moment.
She just looked like she was on a mission and she did it. I couldn't believe it.
She probably exceeded any of her expectations, and I personally thought she had it in her. These guys say they're shocked, I'm not.
We're proud of everything that she has achieved, but we're proud of who she is while achieving that.
Making Jess's win all the more sweeter is the fact she's come so close twice before. She claimed bronze at the 2014 and the 2018 Games. Now finally, and as a mum, she has her goal. Fellow Aussie Madison de Rosario won the T53-54 race, going back-to-back after her Gold Coast Games gold.
She is magnificent, Maddie.
More gold in the pool, the women's 4x100 metre freestylers devastatingly good.
10 gold medals for Emma McKeon, and the Australians defend their Commonwealth Games title.
This, a record-equalling 10th gold for Emma McKeon, joining legends Ian Thorpe, Susie O'Neill and Liesl Jones.
They're people that inspired me growing up, probably inspired these girls and a lot of our team. And so I guess to be mentioned alongside them and be in the history books with them means a lot to me.
The men coming through with their own win moments later.
New Games record, Australia win.
A time of celebration, although the post-race joy was cut short when Kyle Chalmers walked out of interviews after venting his frustrations over personal questions from print media about teammate and ex-girlfriend Emma McKeon, later taking to Instagram to slam the fake storylines. Tonight is the breaking point, he wrote. This could end my time in swimming. Captain Maddie Wilson backing him up. Enough is enough. I won't stand to see my team in tears when they are on top of the world.
Dedekind gets it done.
But nothing could overshadow this.
Can you tell us what happened? Because we're visually impaired, we don't know what's going on. How does Katja Dedekind, world record holder, say?
From para-athlete Katja Dedekind, a stunning performance leaving her visibly shaking afterwards.
It's the adrenaline rush that I haven't felt with such a huge crowd in so long.
From the highs to the lows, a nasty crash involving Aussie Matthew Gleitzer at the velodrome.
And there's a touch of wheels.
The 70km/h spill threatening his chances at a 5th Com Games win.
And Edward Godfrey is in Birmingham. Edward, you have an update on Kyle Chalmers.
I do. Kyle Chalmers is back in the pool today, but team officials tell me he's unlikely now to do any post-race media conferences until at least the end of the Games. There are 8 finals on tonight, so lots of opportunities there for the rest of the team to grab some success. The Rugby Sevens finals are on. Both the men's and women's will have their gold medal matches. And just some breaking news on cyclist Matt Gleitzer. Word has just come through a short time ago that he's been assessed and he's good to go to keep competing for the rest of the Games. So some good news for him here this morning in Birmingham.
Indeed, it is good news. Right, Edward, thank you. A fresh royal scandal has hit the British headlines with claims Prince Charles once accepted a $1.7 million charity donation from the family of Osama bin Laden. The Sunday Times reports he met with members of the Saudi family in 2013, 2 years after the terrorist was shot. Clarence House denies the claim, saying trustees accepted the donation, not the Prince. Anthony Albanese says details of how an Indigenous voice to Parliament would work will be settled after he holds a referendum to enshrine it in the Constitution. The Prime Minister says future governments will be guided by the voice, but it won't undermine the democratically elected Parliament.
Recognising the first Australians in the law that established this nation has been a long conversation for some.
The constitutional recognition has been talked about for over 15 years.
And a short one for many.
Most Australians are starting from scratch on this today.
Now the Prime Minister wants everyone talking about a simple idea.
Do people want an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice enshrined in the Constitution? Is that a positive step forward?
The voice would be a yet-to-be-determined body that represents Indigenous people and would have to be consulted by future governments over any laws that affect them.
But the voice wouldn't be voted for by all Australians. It would be an advisory body.
But just what that looks like is an open question.
The legislation of the structure of the voice won't happen before the referendum.
The coalition supports the idea but says people need to know what they're voting for.
Now's the time for the government to tell us the detail.
Because once the voice is in the Constitution, it's there to stay.
It ensures that the voice cannot be eliminated or silenced by a change of government or a change of Prime Minister.
Parliament would be bound to consider the advice of the advisory body, but retain the power to determine its structure and redesign it if necessary.
This doesn't change in any way the primacy of our democratically elected Parliament.
All hope constitutional change will be a moment of unity.
And let's have this discussion because it has to be something that brings our country together, not divide it.
We want to hold the government to account, but we want to be constructive, and I think that's what Australians want.
In the last 120 years, only 8 out of 44 referendums have succeeded. Chris Ullman, 9 News.
Described as a healer and unifying force, the voice of singer and activist Archie Roach has fallen silent. His family has given us permission to use his name, traditionally not spoken after death, to ensure his music and legacy can live on.
Australia almost broke the heart of Archie Roach.
Snatched from our mother's breast, said this is for the best, took them away.
And in return, his songs about the stolen generation broke open one of Australia's darkest secrets.
My mother cried.
From the Prime Minister, Archie's music drew from a well of trauma and pain, but it flowed with a beauty and a resonance that moved us all. His music was a first-hand story of his own youth.
And it has a way of helping to ease the pain. You see, every time I sing it, I let a little bit of it go.
Born in central Victoria, he was taken from his family when he was only 3, placed in an orphanage. Later told by adoption officials his entire family had died in a house fire. At least he had loving foster parents. Life did take some bad turns, and Archie struggled with life on the streets and alcohol.
I had no bed, I had no home.
Paul Kelly encouraged Archie to record his first album, Charcoal Lane, and from it, the song, They Took the Children Away. It became an anthem for the stolen generation. Archie Roach, Kelly wrote today, Big Tree Down, Weeping in the Forest.
He was so special to Indigenous Australians because he brought his experience to all of us in such a beautiful and meaningful way. He said things that our grandparents couldn't say.
I was only 19.
And high praise from one of the country's great songwriters, Red Gum's John Schumann.
Never let anybody tell you that songs can't change the world, because Archie Roach proved that they can.
His battle with lung cancer in 2010 could have slowed him, but he persisted in touring, telling the stories of Australia's ancient roots.
He was an icon of strength, humility and hope. His music healed and served, and he's going to be surely missed.
He was truly a songman. He spoke truth to power, and he was a storyteller. Go well, Archie.
I am dancing with my spirit.
Mark Burrows, 9 News.
A mostly fine Sunday in Perth, but Natalia Cooper, there is some wild weather on the way.
Yes, there sure is. Good evening to you, Tracy. We're expecting some extreme weather over the next 3 days. A powerful cold front is set to hit tomorrow, bringing heavy rain, damaging winds, thunderstorms and massive surf. A severe weather warning has been issued for places like Perth, Bunbury, Albany, Katanning, Merredin and Geraldton. It's the first in a series of fronts which will slam us until Wednesday night. Up to 100 millimetres could fall over the 3-day period. At Cape Leeuwin and offshore of Rottnest on Tuesday, waves could be as high as 9.5 metres, 7 in other coastal areas. Today is the last day of July and both days and nights were warmer than usual. We had 157 millimetres of rain, which is 15 more than the average, and it looks like August is going to be wet as well. Trace?
9.5 metre waves. That's crazy. All right, Natalia, we'll see you soon. Thank you. Next, watching TV 1 minute, off to hospital the next. A Perth woman injured as a car slams into her living room. Plus, AFL community outrage as a Muslim Carlton player is racially abused. The breakthrough acne treatment that could soon be available in Australia, and the culturally diverse club dedicated to becoming surf savvy.